Hi guys, welcome back to The Social Tune. And today, as promised before, here are my top 10 worst hit songs of 1996. So, considering this is the year in which I was born, I was genuinely curious to listen to the music that came out this year in greater detail. After all, this is a year in the throes of the Europop craze of the mid-90s. A year where many acts from all over the world appeared out of the woodwork to massive success. Heck, look at the #1 song of this year that still gets played at weddings to this day. And furthermore, a lot of the songs to make that year-end Hot 100 were from movie soundtracks, from The Nutty Professor to Mission Impossible. With all of that said, not only was I shocked by the sheer number of songs here that I didn't recognize, but also by how underwhelming the year was as a whole. Not that it was bad, but it just didn't provide us with many standout tracks on either side of the spectrum. With that said, after much deliberation, I was eventually able to come up with 10 tracks that I believe are the worst that 1996 has to offer. So let's dive in. These are the top 10 worst hit songs of 1996, starting with our dishonorable mentions.
When we exhale, say shoot,
Whitney Houston released far worse songs in the 90s, and I was kind of hoping to leave her off this list entirely, but unfortunately, I could not get past how dumb this chorus was. The shoop-de-doop era of music was upbeat and fun and inherently kinda silly. So why is Whitney trying to give it so much weight? It just comes across as melodramatic and unintentionally hilarious. Yet it's also too boring to be enjoyable, resulting in a perfect mess destined for this list. Okay, like anyone, I love Boyz II Men and LL Cool J, but this song is just plain creepy. Steal Your Girl anthems are generally pretty terrible, but Boyz II Men actually does frame it very well, showing that the guy is neglecting her. The problems come in the chorus with the creepy chanting of "Hey lover," and then insisting, "This is more than a crush," which just feels stalker-esque. Had potential, but fumbles the execution big time. You know, I could genuinely see someone making the argument that this is one of the best hits of this year. A nice bass-driven melody, a singer-songwriter spitting truth, and content that actually has weight to it. However, the problems all come with Jewel herself. She oversins heavily, particularly on the chorus, and her high and mighty attitude makes it feel like she's talking down to me, which I really don't need in my music. Especially when you don't have the charisma to back it up. Jewel has made some good songs, but this definitely isn't one of them.
if your girl only knew that you was trying to get in me, what would she do?
Something about this song really does rub me the wrong way. Maybe it's to do with the fact that despite Aaliyah threatening to tell the guy's girlfriend that he's been flirting with her, she never actually does it and just seems to relish in the fact that she's getting so much attention. Just be a good friend and tell on him. There's no reason to tease him in this situation. Oh goody, Brandy, that takes me back. This is a song about a girl fantasizing about a guy while in her room. You would think that this would lend itself to something cute, or at the very least raunchy. And yet, thanks to Brandy's slurring and dead-eyed delivery, the song projects absolutely nothing. But even though that should make this inoffensive, the fact that the subject matter is so specific just makes me resent this song and actively annoys me. Not Brandy's worst song, obviously, but still an ill-conceived bore fest. Okay, out of all the artists that I discovered while exploring this year's Hot 100, this is the one that baffles me most of all. Because, quite frankly, his voice is terrible. It's nasal and whining, and yet for some reason I'm meant to take him seriously as a sex symbol? Yeah, not gonna happen. Oh, and the backing vocals on this song are from the R&B group Cut Close, who are way too good for this song, and the only reason it didn't make the list proper. Well, that, and the fact that he's made sillier songs, such as... Oh my god, how can you not laugh at this? It's a song where he's saying that no one can love this girl quite like him. And yet, for as sensual as the production and Cut Close are, Keith Sweat is painfully outmatched. And this chorus just cracks me up. Seriously, whose idea was it to have the word nobody so ridiculously inserted in this hook? It just sounds ridiculous. But hey, for as silly as it is, it didn't actually make the list, so let's get to what did.
And we'll never be royal.
Ah lord, the pop princess we don't deserve. Melodrama won me over on her in a big way, but even from the very beginning, we could all tell she was something special. Royals was sharp and intelligent in a way very few artists her age can deliver. But of course, record labels had to get involved, which resulted in, no joke, this.
Let me live that
Silver Rose Royce, cigarette smokes in it. New fur rug, now my dirty boots in them.
Yeah, they took a song about consumerism tearing apart our society and gave it to Rick Ross, the king of luxury porn, who clearly had no idea what the song was originally about. What I'm trying to say is, communication between two collaborating artists is very important. Because if they're not on the same page, the results can be very confusing. Case in point...
Introducing Miss Thing Monica. That's right, represent ATL and Ill-Town. So everybody get up out your seat and fix your body, for ain't nobody.
Okay, so it's a little complicated how this qualifies for the list, but hear me out. Back in 1996, singles could be sold in pairs as an A-side and a B-side, meaning technically you have more than 100 songs in this year-end Hot 100. For example, this song was also sold with this.
Baby, that's just why I love you so much. Baby, that's just why I can't get enough.
Oh, Monica, you are such a pretty good singer, I guess. Yeah, Monica has never been that interesting to me, but she can sell romance, and she's got a good voice. And this song is no exception.
That's why I love you, baby. I'm gonna love you. And nobody gonna treat you the way I treat you.
See, this is a song where she's professing love to this guy because he's the only boy who truly loves and understands her. That's simple and straightforward, right? Apparently not.
That's why I love you, baby.
A hickey on your lap. That's the payback for the scratches you left on my back.
The guest rapper here is Tretch from Naughty by Nature, and he just doesn't get it.
I heard your next best is now your next ex. Cause in the middle of the best section, yell Tretch. And I ain't mad at you yet. But your pimp daddy don't know I'm hurting. Who loves you best?
You do realize this is a love song, right? Seriously, what's with the aggressive tone and the confrontational lyrics? I mean, really, Monica? This is the guy for you? This is how you want to be treated?
We can keep it on a low down. I don't go down, I throw down. He threw your clothes over the rover. So where you gonna go now? Remember when I was like, who you? Now you my boo-boo. He be bragging how he do you. So who you think he true to?
In a song where this guy is supposed to be the most romantic guy in the world, the most romantic thing we see him do is slam her ex and then brag about how she now belongs to him. Seriously, Tretch, how hard was it for you to soften up for one fucking song? If you had acted soft like the song demanded, then you could have walked away at least thinking you had done a good job. Instead, it seems you were so insecure about your masculinity that you gave the exact wrong performance for this track. Which now means I get to make fun of you online for it, meaning that your failure will be forever immortalized in this video.
Feed your body, I'll drive you out shoddy. So trust me, hardy, like there ain't nobody.
Confusing, awkward mess of a song that could have been so easily made better with just a little more communication and a little less ego.
I know I can treat you better than he can.
At this point, you all know how I feel about this song. It's completely reprehensible and the type of nice guy anthem that most artists won't attempt because they know better. However, just like Shawn Mendes, there are some idiots out there who will still try regardless to predictable results.
Nothing is forbidden when we touch. Baby, I wanna do all of the things you men won't do. Every little, I'll do them for you.
What's weird about this song is that it almost works. Joe actually tries to make the case that he's genuinely better for this girl and does provide us with more details as to how this guy mistreats her.
Tell me what kind of man would treat this woman so cold. Treat you like you're nothing when you're worth more than gold.
But at the end of the day, it's not enough, and once we get back to that chorus, I instantly tune out. I'm sorry, but without very clever writing, this premise will never work for me.
I'll put a string of pearls right in your hand. Make love on a beach of jet black sand. Outside in the rain, we can do it all night.
It's just a song about how Joe is better for this girl than her boyfriend, and said boyfriend isn't framed negatively enough for us to agree with him. Okay, Joe didn't show this girl getting beaten up in his music video, which immediately gives me more respect for him, but it's just not enough. Plus, there's still this line.
I'll make your body cream with my sex machine. I won't stop until I hear your mother scream.
What?
I won't stop until I hear your mother scream.
So sex with you will feel so great that her mother will feel it? That's neither possible nor sexy. In fact, it kind of kills the mood.
I wanna do, yeah.
That line just fascinates me because there are no other lines like it. It really does come out of nowhere. Either way, it results in this song being boosted up to number 9 instead of number 10. Well played, Joe. You are almost one of the lesser evils on this list, and yet with one line, you just managed to make that upper tier. Congratulations.
Wanna do.
So I've said in the past that you can make anyone sympathetic with good writing. However, as I've also said before, the opposite is true too.
My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go.
No fails for many reasons, but the biggest one is still that it would have been so easy to get me to side with her. And while this next song isn't quite that bad, it still frustrates me to no end.
How could you turn your back on me? Oh, if you don't want me, if you don't need me, tell me who do you love, boy?
Most of us, at some point, have had to go through a breakup. It's never easy, and some of us just don't handle it very well. And if you want a prime example of that, then look no further than Deborah Cox.
Last night I slept alone. I stayed at home for the first time since you've been gone, babe.
Now, unlike a lot of Whitney's output in the 90s, Deborah knew what kind of production worked for her, and so she still sounds pretty good here. The issue comes in the lyrics that really do rub me the wrong way.
How you walked away so easily still remains a mystery to me. Don't you remember that you promised me? Yes, you promised me that you'd never leave, boy.
So on this song, she feels betrayed by this guy who apparently moved on from her to another girl. Fair enough, but see, most singers would acknowledge that pain and move on. But oh, not Deborah.
If you really don't want, if you don't want me, if you don't need me, if you don't need me, if you don't love me, then who do you love?
Yes, this is an entire song about how she's utterly baffled how and why this guy could have possibly moved on from her. Because after all, if he doesn't love her, who could he possibly love instead? And the more the song goes on, the more I find myself sympathizing with the guy here and understanding why he moved on from this egomaniac.
But somehow your feelings changed. Now you don't act the same. I guess you're not the man that I once knew at all.
Yeah, how could you move on from such a clingy, insecure, and flat-out narcissistic person? Seriously, why do singers miss the mark so often with this one? It is very easy to win us over, and yet you choose to act like the most obnoxious people on the planet. This is here for its waste of potential and for tripping itself up at each and every turn. Still, at least the concept makes sense even if it is irritating, unlike, say... You know, one of the running themes in the 90s is that there were a lot of songs about sex. And on principle, that's great. It made for a lot of wonderful, smooth music. But in 1996, we seem to lose track of things a little. Because a lot of the sexy music that came out this year is either weirdly creepy or just plain misconceived. Now, we'll get to worse examples of this later on, but for now, let's take a look at this. There were a lot of R&B groups in the 90s, and many of them wrote about sex. So in most cases, I'd be willing to dismiss the fact that a group wooing one single girl is inherently kind of gangbangy. But this song is special.
Last night, there was an overland. It was so special and so very innocent.
See, unlike a lot of songs in this vein, this song is from the point of view of someone the morning after sex. Which is a terrible idea because you have no choice but to accept that everything described in this song happened to each of them individually. Furthermore, even if it was only one performer singing on this, it's still a terrible idea for a sex song. I mean, is this guy just so insecure that he's reminding this girl of everything they did the night before? I mean, seriously, why would she need reminding? I hate to bring this up, but if this girl can't remember what happened the night before, that gives this song a very sinister undertone. Not helped by the creepy production.
Last night, you were so into it. You told me secrets that you never told us.
I mean, I'm sure this is sexy to someone, but to me, it's invasive and uncomfortable. And no, the harmonies and the lyrics don't help at all. Especially because the songwriting here is terrible.
I kissed your lips, you felt my body slip into your soul. I almost cried 'cause it was so beautiful.
This would be painfully corny if it weren't so unsettling. Overall, it's a badly conceived song that is unfortunately way too easy to take the wrong way. But don't worry, we've got plenty more of that later on. So like I said before, 1996 is best known for Europop suddenly flooding the American market. And look, there are plenty of songs that I could mock in this vein, but honestly, I actually find myself liking a lot of it. Heck, I wouldn't even say that I hate this song, I just kind of pity it for being such a tonally confused mess.
Where do you go, my lovely? Where do you go? I wanna know, my lovely. I wanna know, where do you go? I wanna know.
So these three are Ariel and Gabriel Hernandez of Cuba and Marty Sintron from New York, all orchestrated by producer Frank Therian from Germany. So yeah, we're using Europop in the loosest sense of the term, but it does still share a lot of the same qualities: extremely danceable, extremely catchy, and very silly. This song just fascinates me. I mean, despite none of its members being from Spain, it's very clearly trying to imitate the scene, what with the Spanish guitars and the fucking castanets. Oh, and it's a song about a Latin lover pining over a girl who left him. Yeah, there are plenty of weird things about this song, but this is definitely the most glaring one. Why would you make a breakup song into a dance song? I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, but listen to this.
Look into my eyes, can't you see they're open wide? Would I lie to you, baby? Would I lie to you? Oh yeah.
Now, if you like this song, great, good for you, but I hate it. David Guetta took a wonderful slow love song and then turned it into a dance hit for no reason. But at least in that song's case, it has the excuse that it's a remix. Meanwhile, Where Do You Go sounds like the dance remix version of itself.
Where do you go, my lovely? Where do you go?
It's genuinely ridiculous hearing these passionate and mournful vocals followed by a dance breakdown. This is how the Disney Channel shows would have dealt with breakups, just dancing the pain away, while somehow still trying to make their songs sound dramatic.
You gotta help me make it through the night, save me. Come back and save me. Where do you go, my lovely?
It's a song that tries to be two very different things that end up clashing horrifically. Not sure why they thought this would work, but then again, it did become a hit, so what do I know? In my books though, this is easily one of the most ridiculous and unintentionally funny songs of the 90s.
Where do you go?
I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything I will do for you.
Well, you all knew this was coming.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, Macarena.
Yeah, at this point, this song has gained the same level of notoriety as songs like Baby It's Cold Outside and Blurred Lines. But hey, for the 2 or 3 of you who didn't know about the controversy surrounding this track, let me elaborate.
I am not trying to seduce you.
See, there are actually 3 versions of this song. The original, which is entirely in Spanish, the Bayside Boys remix, and the one you hear at weddings. That last one is basically just the chorus looped for eternity, which works because it's easily the best and most famous part of the song.
Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, Macarena.
If this song comes on and you don't immediately start to dance, then you have no sense of fun. But even so, that wasn't the version of the song that topped the charts for weeks on end and became the biggest Latino hit of all time until Despacito came around last year, because the Bayside Boys remix has verses in English. That turned out to be a mistake.
Now don't you worry about my boyfriend, the boy whose name is Vitorino. I don't want him, couldn't stand him, he was no good, so I... Now, come on, what was I supposed to do? He was out of town, and his 2 friends were so fine.
I mean, I don't really think I need to spell it out for you. The girl in this song, named Macarena, is a cheating slut. And on top of that, has a grating delivery and a laugh that shows she doesn't care one bit who knows it.
Come and find me, my name is Macarena. Always at the party con las chicas que están buenas.
It's that simple and takes all the fun out of what many consider to be, once again, a wedding song. Yeah, in other words, there's a reason that many of you predicted that this would actually top my list. But in the end, no.
Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, Macarena.
For as much as these verses are reprehensible, I do still love that chorus, and that dance is iconic. So no, it's only at number 5. And trust me, once you see what topped it, I think you'll agree.
Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, Macarena.
Always forever, near and far, closer together everywhere. I will be with you, everything I will do for you.
Okay, putting this list together was actually pretty tough, and some of the songs here will require a bit of a longer explanation as to why they made the list. This is not one of them.
You remind me of my G. I wanna ride it, something like my sound. I wanna pump it, girl, you ain't just like my car. I wanna wax it, something like my bank account. I wanna spend it, baby.
Yep, arguably the dumbest song R. Kelly ever made. You all knew it was coming, so let's just take those cheap shots that everyone else has at this point.
You remind me of my G. I wanna ride it.
This girl is a Jeep to you, a bulky car that you can drive along the back roads with your eyes closed.
Something like my sound. I wanna pump it.
You want to pump her out of your speakers. That sounds macabre and oddly specific.
Girl, you ain't just like my car. I wanna wax it,
You creep, I think she can wax herself without your help.
something like my bank account. I wanna spend it.
So this girl is a form of currency to you?
You remind me of something. I just can't think of what it is.
Yeah, she reminds you of something, you just... Yeah, that's an inevitable comparison. Oh, and let's not forget the cringeworthy double entendre dad jokes.
I would like to take you on a ride tonight. Hit me up on how to get inside you. So get a little closer to my ride. Let me be the one to drop you off. So pull up to my bumper and let the system sound. I can drive you crazy.
It's like R. Kelly knew how stupid this was from the first line, but he was too stubborn to quit, so he just doubled down. Either way, it results in one of the dumbest and silliest pickup songs, pun intended, of all time. Still, to R. Kelly's credit, it could be worse. After all, at least the production on this sex song is actually sensual and smooth. I mean, even the most incompetent of performers couldn't mess that up, right? You know, I know that some people have a very low bar as to what constitutes a sex song, but at the very least, doesn't a sex song have to sound somewhat sexy? Ah, Genuine, the self-proclaimed sexaholic. He clearly saw himself as a love god who could do no wrong. And so he tried to take it to the furthest possible limits. Needless to say, it backfired in a big way.
I'm just a dancer. I'm looking for a partner. Someone who knows how to ride without even falling off.
Let's get the instrumentation out of the way first, because it's the strangest mix of sounds that I've heard in a while. It's a weird combination of screeching tires, a plodding beat, a video game jump sound effect, and strange belching. All things that I'm sure you ladies find incredibly sexy on their own, but together... Fun fact, this song was produced by Timbaland. Yes, really. Oh, but it gets better, because then we have the lyrics, where Genuine tells you to hop aboard his saddle, and that once you do, you'll never want to get off. Seriously, he is so cocky, pun intended, even with that instrumentation. And yet, even with all of that bravado, he still refers to his dick as a pony. Not a horse, a pony. Why? Was it to make it cuter and more appealing to women?
We're gonna get nasty, baby. First we'll show and tell, till I reach your ponytail.
This is so awkward and so clueless in every way that it absolutely cracks me up. I can barely conceive that Genuine thought that this was genuinely sexy. And look, if you find this sexy, I mean, you do you, I guess, but why? Again, there are much better sex songs out there. Heck, we covered a couple of them on this list. Either way, enjoy your blissful ignorance, Genuine, and I hope the ride was good for you at the very least. So one thing that I'm not yet quite comfortable talking about on this channel is my faith, because it is pretty personal. But what I can say is that I don't mind most Christian rock and hymns.
Bless the Lord, my soul. Oh, my soul. Worship his holy name.
Yeah, a lot of songs that most critics would just dismiss as dull trash are songs that I actually don't mind at all. With that said, I do think that some of the criticisms leveled against the genre as a whole do have some merit to them. It can be underwritten and otherwise pandering to its audience, not challenging them, but instead just reverberating within their echo chambers. But believe it or not, in 1996, there was a song that went against the tide. One that actually did ask questions and encouraged people to think. That was just inconceivable in 1996. This was way ahead of its time. So what daring revolutionary brought us this timeless anthem?
Yeah. Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home.
Now, before you all sound off at me down in those comments, no, this is not on the list because I feel that people's faiths shouldn't be challenged or questioned. No, it's on this list because it thinks it's way deeper than it really is.
What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us.
Yeah, what if God were one of us? That's deep. Except it's not. For one, the Bible says that we're all made in God's image, and for another, wasn't the whole point of Jesus that he was as human as any of us and yet also God? It's not deep, and it's certainly not worth writing a song about. And you know who agrees with me? The songwriter.
If you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you had just one question?
This song was actually written by Eric Brazilian, the frontman of the American rock band The Hooters. And he described this song as the quickest song he'd ever written. He actually just wrote it to impress his wife-to-be, and also just happened to be producing Joan Osborne's album at the time. And so the record label picked it up from him and gave it to her to sing. So yeah, not for the first time in one of my 90s lists, this song was a first draft that was never meant to be released to the public. Oh, and it also received 3 Grammy nominations, by the way, because of course it did.
And would you want to see if seeing meant that you would have to believe in things like heaven and in Jesus and the saints and all the prophets?
Seriously, once you realize why and how this song was written, it actually makes a lot more sense. Because it is truly a terribly written song where every single line is just there to rhyme with the previous one. And the worst example of that aimless writing is the pre-chorus.
Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, yeah.
That is beyond generic and lazy. It just transcends description. Although, it does face some very stiff competition from this line.
Nobody calling on the phone except for the Pope maybe in Rome.
They decided to end the song on that line, by the way, because who cares if it's a non sequitur that sounds incredibly awkward and clumsy. But yeah, while this is a terrible bore of a song that is an insult to the intelligence of anyone who has ever listened to it, I think that I found one song that was actually worse in 1996. So what is it?
Except for the Pope maybe in Rome.
I love you always, forever, near and far, closer together everywhere. I will be with you, everything I will do for you.
Okay, look, this is not the song that I dislike the most on this list. In fact, out of all the songs that I mentioned in this video, this might just be my favorite one out of the bunch. But do I still feel justified placing it at number 1? Oh, absolutely. You could make the very reasonable statement that there were more unlikable songs released in 1996, but out of all the songs that I heard from that year, this is by far the strangest. It's a song that leaves me utterly speechless and wondering how the hell it ever became a hit, let alone a top 5 one. And oh yeah, you heard me right, this got to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. This song really is proof how desperate people were to dance in 1996, more than any other song that could have made it here. I mean, it starts with the sound of a fucking train going through a tunnel, and it only gets weirder from there. For one, it's over 7 minutes long with a beat that is incredibly repetitive and oddly hypnotic. For another, you have the constant chanting of "Ride that choo-choo," followed by the sounds of people whistling and making train noises. And lastly, while this is clearly meant to be just a fun dance song, all of our performers treat it so seriously, as they all have a metric ton of energy, but are still treating this like it's a real song, which would be admirable if it weren't so fucking dumb. Again, this is number one because it leaves me completely baffled. It's the type of song that epitomizes just how terrible and wonderful the 90s were in one beautiful, perfect, awful song. And while many would argue that it shouldn't be number one for that reason, I feel that placing it any lower than number one would somehow be an insult to it. It does everything it can to earn that spot, and damn it if I'm not going to respect that. So yeah, Come On Ride the Train is the worst and most wonderful song of 1996, and if you think that means that it's not going to make my best list once I make that, then you are sorely mistaken. Bless this absolutely glorious musical train wreck. So yeah, those were the worst hit songs of 1996. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I can imagine that some of you will disagree with some of these picks, especially my number one. But again, I don't hate it. It's just earned that spot so definitively that I can't deny it. Still, if you have any suggestions as to what my next top 10 list should be, best or worst, leave them in the comments below or tweet them at me at @thesocialtune, link in the description. Otherwise, please subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is The Social Tunes, signing off.